Hello and welcome to a Python Django live code hangout. Today we'll be working on the companionship care app. As you can see here, we're open source on GitHub at github.com/jerrylive. And you're going to be able to find us this project at the companionship care. We've got a couple of other active open source projects. Today we're going to work on an issue. Let's see. When you register for the service, we want you to be able to assign your name. And for some reason, the given name isn't being displayed on the form. So I'm going to try to dig into that and see what's going on. Very cool. So we got the code open here. We're on the main branch. And it's actually a display name. I think I missed display name. We don't necessarily need the given name, just a name to display so that the other group members can identify you. We don't have like a username feature. We're using email. And I think that's where the disconnect happened is Django, the default Django user model has a given name field, I think, and then I think I switched to a custom user model. So I've got to dig into it. I haven't touched this code in a while, but it's going to be under the accounts section. So we got our project is within the repo and a little bit of documentation and metadata, project metadata. And we've got several apps. These are our base templates and static folder. The rest of these, aside from media, are our apps. So we've got caregivers, activities. Accounts is where people sign up. We've got a sign up form that's going to render some field. I need to localize these texts while I'm here. Just do that incrementally. We have another task for this as well. Both ends of it needs to be internationalized and then localized. So might as well just do both of these while I'm here. And so this sign up form is displayed via the sign up view, and then I've got a user profile view, which is a function-based view. So let's check out these views as well. So here's the sign up view and here's the user profile view. And already I can see there's some kind of code. I should have left that out, cleaned that up a bit better, but and maybe it would have been better to use a class-based view here since I'm just kind of handling the post function. And in the case of get, it could be actually a form view since we're just returning the form. But anyway, this code is relatively old, and I'm learning as I go. So let's do the little bit of cleanup first. That's kind of simple. Maybe that will propagate to the front end, and then I want to localize that string. I'm kind of winging it here. I'll check the signature for this method. There we go. So it takes the request and a string. That way I can attach this message to the request. Then we don't need that. All right, so that's a bit better. take a little closer look at this. All right, so we've got a user creation form. The model is from the user, and it's looking for the email and display name. Widgets are both text inputs and some placeholder text. Should be consistent. So yeah, actually, let me just run this from the front end. So we can get a look at it, how the code is behaving from the front end real quick. Open that up. So I'm logged in here, and basically the goal is everybody should, have a display name. And that way when you're managing somebody, you see the companions and you know who they are, and it's not some sort of anonymous user. So if I sign up, now it is asking for my display name. So maybe this isn't getting set correctly. Let's just say or maybe it's working correctly and I spoke, or I kind of created an erroneous bug report. Yeah, okay, that is working great. That saves a little bit of time. We'll just go out into another bug. Very good. All right, so I don't know if I should go to the extent of doing a Django form view. It looks cleaner. I mean, it's less code. Let's see if it behaves the same. So, we have this sign up view, which is creating a user. Okay. So this goes in the form valid method. And this is just here. And then this is here. And this is here. So I'll have to like, and the problem is this won't work because it's not automatically logging people in. Now I don't know if we want to do that, automatically log people in. Oh, I'm sorry, the sign up view. I'm getting confused. Yeah, looking at the user profile view, the sign up it'd be nice if they would automatically sign people in. Let's refactor this form here. Oops. Missed my semicolon. Or my colon. No. Alright, so we're going to copy this form view. Django generic edit form view. Cool. Template name. Template name is this. Form class is this, and it's not an instance, it's just a reference to the class, so I'm not actually instantiating it. Subtle but different. You'll catch that a lot. Success URL, this is a tricky one. I'll just have to remember how to do this. It's essentially, where is it? User profile. There it is, reverse lazy. I'm still not really clear on the use of reverse versus reverse lazy. Okay. So when this file is imported, all the URLs aren't loaded yet. Makes sense. It would be called at runtime. And instead of authors list, it's user profile. Just got to be careful with this copying and pasting code. It's easy to make mistakes. Very easy to make mistakes. And also just to not know what's going on. I get myself in that trap where I just copy and paste a bunch of code and I'm like, oh, I don't know how this works. All right, so now we're going to define this form valid. Method to take self and the form. And it's really just, you're saving the form. And they're not even saving the form. Does this save the form, or do I have to explicitly save the form? Now note that they're not, it's not a model view. I mean, a model form. So we want to set this message, and I think, oh, that's difficult. Self.request probably. Complete guess. Yeah, all right. Django is pretty well organized. So, you know, you can develop an intuition. That's for mixing, not the form itself. JSONable response mix in. But since it's being mixed into the author create view, I believe it would then have that request on itself. Sorry for the background noise. Very cool. And yeah, this might be an interesting approach for if we want to go down the API route with flexible frontend. But I also think at that point we would look at Django REST framework. This is actually not too different, and I like the idea of content negotiation so that the same view can serve basically two different content types. So if the form is invalid, do I want to post to the user? Oops. There we go. Oh, that's not what I'm trying to do. Home. Oh, wow. Self form. There we go. And then I think we would just also this be communicative and colon. There we go. And it's self.request. This is a bit of an annoying message that continually pops up. I'm not really trying to auto format things. I think I just have the habit of saving the file like right after I type or something. I'm not sure. So this is pretty cool. So let's say what's going on, form handling. The only thing I'm not sure about is the form.save. Let me just see if the save method will be called. Ah, man, that's, yeah. The documentation in Django also is just top notch, top tier. And I know it's, well, anyway, I'm just gonna say that it's really nice to be using very mature and well documented frameworks, so I can pretty much just focus on like problems at the level of the kind of product we're trying to build and not building my own framework. I'm not really talented enough or knowledgeable enough to build my own framework. You know, just all these little details, they add up, like saving the form and even building this abstraction of form handling. That's pretty massive time savings. And it's never really gotten in my way. I've heard this thing about the framework getting in your way. You know, certainly there's a learning curve, but anytime you're in a project, that project has a framework. It has its own methodology and conventions and architecture, and sometimes lack of architecture and lack of primitives that you need, like form handling in this case. So there's always that learning curve, and yeah, even a self-constructed framework can get in your way, I suppose. Especially when you don't know how it works, like when you're not familiar with it, that can be the frustrating time. But even as I get more familiar with Django, and I'm starting to get some intuition, I still haven't felt like it's gotten in my way. As an example, you know, a view is just a function, right? So it can really do anything in here and return anything you want. As they've just demonstrated, you can return JSON or HTML, or even just a string, hello world. And so that is an example of me that none of this is really necessary. That's all extra. And then when you need it, and typically there's patterns that you're following, like sending a form to the user, validating the form, saving the form. The framework actually puts wind in your sails, gives you a boost. And really clear way of describing things too. Form invalid, form valid. Is it a form view? Like I'm working at a high conceptual level. I'm not sort of down here in this really imperative level. there's some imperative code, but you can see the difference even just login required. I think I can just have that same decorator, but is it, you know, the difference in the code is more, you know, relatively speaking, it's about the same lines, I guess. But I'm having to say, you know, some things that they're already said for me here. So anyway, I don't know. I don't think it gets in my way. Save, and there we go. Auto formatted it. Let's see though, you know, because I'm learning. This behaves as I'm expecting it, and our users should only be able to update their own form. And I think we can handle this thing. It's like, where's this defined? Where's this used? Whoa, wrong button. Shift. We'll give you the invert where it's used. So basically F12 is this go-to definition. No, I don't think, yeah, I don't have the keys I'm pressing on the screen here, or the keyboard combinations. And then Shift F12 will show you usages. So it's basically defined here, and then the admin is used. So I'll leave that alone. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But it's essentially, these are admin related forms. All right, cool. I was just curious, what's the difference between changing a user, which basically displaying the same fields even, and updating user profile? Well, that's the user because these fields are on the user model. I didn't separate out a user profile in this project. All right, so the only thing left, I think the view looks correct, but we want to just test it out. So I can do like this: Control K, C, path. Same thing. I could just sign up. And then this as view, and name equals sign up. And I don't know if trailing comma is important here. Yep, so black's auto formatting my code, and I hit Control dot, or you can hover. Usually, there it goes. And you can say, you know, it tells you your problem, and in some cases when you've got Django can, or pylons can quick fix it. When your environment is able to find your environment, add view, there we go. And it'll even put your imports. Oh, I did the wrong one. It's all right, easy done. Control K, C, and took out the import. So make sure I get any typos. Say myself some typos as view. Yep, so it's nice. So that thing can pop up, I'm gonna hit Control period, and it'll just, or Command period, and put that in there. And this is not used anymore, but I'll leave it for just a moment. All right. So let's check out our, ooh, okay, so yeah, it's not, so this is an example, in my opinion, of the framework getting away. It's just my lack of understanding that is getting away. Function object has no attribute as view. Typically doing this. Oh, because it's a function. No, I did that. Form view. So they were doing this along the top here. So you got a form view. That is kind of weird. Let's see if there's dot. Oh, it's right there. It shouldn't be a function object. That's kind of confusing me. Let's see if I just. This one was auto completed for me, and it's really just following the same pattern as right below. Maybe I got the import wrong. Import side view, user profile form view. I wish I could tell it to not show that error. Yeah. And I've even uploaded this. Format on paste. I should have said this is a global setting, I believe. Because I use black, so I'm in so many projects. Yeah, format on paste. It'd be interesting if that could format the whole document on paste instead of the selection. That'd be another approach to it instead of just disabling the formatting on paste. Let's see. So if I go to my settings, file, edit, preferences, settings. It's a bit buried there. Format. There should be a way to edit the text for this. But settings.json. Here we go. And let's see if I've got a Python one already. It's quite a lot. Python. Here we go. There we go. And this should synchronize now. Okay, cool. Now back to what we're doing. Is the Django framework getting in my way? Making this so I can't clean up the code? Well, it could be an example of it. Form view, attribute error. This is just a very strange one for me. So it's form view. Yeah. This happened a while ago too. Yeah, that's right. It's kind of strange. No. Yeah, it is probably easier. No. Let me just double check this. Views.py. I'm defining a class. You know, what if this decorator is the culprit? That would make sense because it would be wrapping it. Oh man, yeah. You have to use a mixin for class-based use. Okay, this is not the. So this is a fine distinction, but it's not the framework getting in my way here. It's my knowledge of it. But actually, the framework provides conventions, and instead of using a decorator, since I'm switching from a function-based view, you can't just decorate. And that's also my knowledge of just Python, right? This is not even a Django thing. I guess you can't decorate classes. You can decorate functions, and the decorator will wrap that function in a function that can do something else, and then run the function inside of it. That's my basic understanding of decorators, right? It's like a function that can do some stuff that takes your function as an argument, and inside of it does its stuff before or after your function, and then runs your function and returns the value or something like that. It have to return the value from your function. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I can't decorate a class, but there's a mix-in, login required mix-in. And I could even say user passes test mix-in, which would allow me to check that the user's editing their own profile. Let's see. This is going to come from my virtual environment, and Pylons can't pick this up. This is kind of a weird thing because I'm using Poetry for the virtual environment management, but I've got the virtual environment in. I mean, I've selected it here. Let me make sure I've selected it here. Instead of the absolute path, I'll try the relative path. See if this makes a difference. Overall, I like Poetry. I think it adds a lot of benefits. But I'm increasingly considering just going back to regular pip workflow. All right. So, find the log. Oops, hey, there it went. No quick fix available. Yes, very cool. So that wasn't actually my problem. My problem was the decorator, and I had the same problem, but it's not quite. The question wasn't really what. No, it's a login required mixin. Yeah, and this is a good example of having batteries included that can save you time. It got in my way in the terms of my learning curve, but it's actually saving me time because it's able to, with one word, check that a person's logged in and give me a clean abstraction to do that login. Mix in. There's several of these. We can check it out. Django contrib mixin, auth mixin. So let's just contrib auth. Decorators mix-in just comes, and congrib mixings. Let's see what we've got. Control space stat access mix-in, login required mix-in, permission required mix-in, user passes test mix-in. These are pretty nice, and they're ways of gatekeeping certain class-based views. Essentially, I don't know the details of all of them, but in this case, I just want this login required mixin. Permissions are general, generic kind of permissions, like system-wide ones. User passes test, you can get down very specifically to like object level permissions. I've used this in inspecting this project. So there we go. And look at this, we're going to be able to remove all of these imports that aren't used, I believe. I shouldn't delete them prematurely, but now we get rid of that error. And we can go back here, and I want to edit my profile. Edit a profile. Okay. There we go. So I think I know the problem here. The form view is passing this form class into the template, but my template is using the wrong word for the form. So let's find that profile. Well, user form. So I think this is just form, because the context changed. You can see in my view, I think I attached it into context user form. So that's just my own nomenclature to make it clear what kind of form we're dealing with. I think you could probably context object name. Form name. Oops. I'm sure there's a way you can override that, such as there's this, get context object name, but I believe this should work just by naming that form. Yeah, there we go, perfect. Again, this is like, now I'm getting comfortable after working with Django for a while. I should have been working with Django for a long time. I think I would have been more successful in a couple of the projects I've worked on and the kind of startups I've been involved with if we would have just bet on Django instead of kind of some of the more nascent web frameworks. That the word framework is kind of they're not really batteries included frameworks typically. That's one of the things I've noticed. All right, so here's this, and email address field is blank. So is that to be expected? Well, at least this is an improvement. Let's see if it saves and is required. Okay, so and it doesn't work. Oh, no. The form was valid. Well, what if I just form.save here? It said it did it automatically. Didn't. Let me see if I refresh this page. Maybe it did work. And well, in order to pass that message to me, the response had to come back from the server. It just happened fast. All right, so here's probably just another detail where so this is not the problem. I think Django, the framework is handling things correctly. My code is probably user. Oh, this is a model-based form. Anyway, yeah. So I should just be reading that documentation. This was really good. Thank you. Okay, model form. Yes. So got the model form. Now I'm not just doing a generic view because I don't want them to be able to update any given arbitrary profile, but their own. So yeah, that's probably the issue, is it's not getting that user profile in the context. And I think that's what I was doing. See, I deleted the code in. No. Here's what I did. The user form. Instantiate it with the user. Yeah. Of course, I can revert all this, but there might be an argument for the form view to take an instance. Self-ever requesting. That could be an initial equals request at user. That's another thing with frameworks as well in open source. You can just dig right in there. Let's see. No, dang it. Right, this is not this is again my ignorance of knowledge. Python. Crud. Okay, so get initial. Yes. But it's okay, no shame in the game, right? So we're going to go with a little bit more code, but it's, I think, a bit more like self-descriptive. Oh, poo. Yeah, that makes sense. Wait. It just doesn't. It doesn't need the form. It's extra parameter that it wasn't used. Oh, not iterable. Well, it's getting passed in there, so it needs to be a dictionary. Huh. Oh, same thing. All right. Man. No, this is not worth the hassle. Much more trying. I'm gonna go ahead and look a little bit more. Instance or value. Oh yeah, makes sense because it's an instance of a norm mapping or class. All right, and that's what we do here. Instance. Yeah, so this is it. Get form. That's a good distinction. This doesn't start to be more readable with this bit. But these are self-descriptive, and I can kind of see what's going on here. We want to instance the form with the user, but that's just a bit terse. Or, yeah, or what would it be? Ah, okay, that's it. I'm form class missing one. Yeah. And this could be a bit old. This answer, 2014. Let me just check. Interesting. So make that optional. Right. Well, it works. Yeah. Whoa, did I save it or something? Yeah, it doesn't submit. Okay, that's it. That's the straw. There's probably a, yeah, this is getting too complicated. Dang it. That, I can see why that would feel like the framework getting in my way, but again, I can just, it was optional. And you can use a form, class-based. So basically, I'm gonna revert some stuff here. That's a good. Let's see. This I can pretty much just revert everything here, and then maybe we'll lint it. This one, I think we'll just revert everything. Let me double check. Form view, required, just the imports. Those are unused. And profile, then I can change back the context object. There's probably a way of doing that cleanly. Let me make sure everything works with the class-based view. Yeah, of course, that code worked. And let's just go ahead and lint on save. All right, so it's kind of a small and it's not fixed anymore. It's kind of a small pull request. Yeah, and a failed attempt to switch to a class-based view, but that's okay. Don't learn if you don't try. So this would be 43. And that's basically clean up. Profile. Code cleanup. Don't need to approve my own, just rebase and merge. All right, let's see if we've got time for another little feature here. Been going for 1 hour. This is a little bit more involved. I'd like to think about this, but we could take a look at the first part, which would be that when you register, it'll automatically log you in. Now, in the long run, we'll want to have some kind of email validation thing. So they're using a function-based view. All right. That's from 2010. It could have changed, but surprisingly, Django is pretty stable in a lot of ways. Yeah, and this is more what we're going to be doing when the form is valid. But you can see the code even in 2015 was the same. Just maybe class-based views were newer at that point. And I like this one because it's form valid. This is on save, which happens inside of form valid, so it's a little bit later. So that's not a bad approach. 2019, but they're all very similar. Yeah, even in 2019. Where did it 2019 go? This one they're passing in the request. Makes sense, I guess. Is that necessary? So let's take this task into. We're going to make it a little bit smoother. Because this context is somebody who has been invited to a care group. They may or may not have an account. They may need to register for an account as part of this process prior to accepting the invitation. So I'm kind of working in a related feature, making the registration process smoother, but it's not the invitation flow. I don't know if it'll hamper the invitation flow. Yeah, and this could be down the road too, you just automatically log in, but there is an email validation step, and it'll deactivate your account if you haven't validated in like 24 hours. When user registers. Automatically log them in. Now here's a little bit beyond that. In the broader context of a registration flow where you've got an invitation, we may want to log the user in and redirect them to their invitation page. So we'll need to redirect to argument. Yeah, I think that's kind of clear. So let's take it into work. 1 hour into the session, I think I got some energy to work on another feature. Hopefully there'll be conventions for this. Maybe the redirect to or whatever that is already going to work. I don't think so on the registration, or at least in another project I've worked on. The registration form is kind of, there's an expectation that it's not immediate. It doesn't immediately log you in, and it doesn't kind of redirect you. If you're using the, to the best of my knowledge, if you're using the Django account primitives. So let's just take a look. Taking a look. Oops. I'm also keeping my eye on the chat in case there's any viewers and you got any questions or comments. Okay, so let me just do a little bit of housekeeping here. I merged that pull request. We're gonna check out main. We're gonna pull the changes down. So we're good to go here. Close these all out, create a new branch. Smooth registration. Smooth registration flow. All right, so let's see how we're doing the registration. So we got this login and sign up. So we're going to look at the sign up process. So we got the template here, double click it to open it. If you single click, it's nice. It lets you just kind of browse through stuff. But when double clicking, then it'll open it, or double clicking the tab itself. It'll open it up more. Oh yeah, I forgot the localization stuff. I'm going to add localization here right now. While I remember. Oh, wait, catch the user. You have a string selected. Like if I do this, and yeah, see? Why didn't I do it in the title block? Dun, 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 dun. Maybe I hit some kind of button in between. Yes, we're looking good. Translation, local internationalization, place. Let's just do this across these others. Yeah, as we're getting closer to market, we know we're going to have, well, I'm in Finland, so we're going to have, our initial users are going to be probably based here. And there's a lot of people who speak English here, but we're going to be translating things to Finnish. We already have to a certain extent. I believe so, or was it the other project? I can't remember now. No, that was the other project. Actually, so that's an interesting thing we can show on the stream is how we translate stuff. And I'm gonna see if this works in this block. Maybe it was like a typo on my part. No, see? Oh, you know what? It's an Emmet abbreviation. I gotta come over here. Careful what I'm auto-expanding. Emmet's handling everything inside of the HTML file, and then I suppose when somehow here, when, I don't know, somehow it knows to use the Django template one by default instead of Emmet. Beats me. 18, and it's looking good. Yeah. Smooth registration. Okay, so yeah, we got the sign up view. The login views, not so important right now. We have a sign up, say view template. We have sign up view. Yeah, and it's a basic create view, creating a custom user. Nice. Oh, yeah, so I do have this success URL where create view, redirect to, maybe there's a pattern for that. I like following patterns that are like conventional. Now this success view can call a function. That function can check the whole request. So that request can just contain an arbitrary get property, a get object or whatever, which can have an optional redirect to. Let me just try this out. And if it doesn't, then just reverse lazy home. So get success URL. Self, you know, yeah, self. All right, you don't need that. And boom. Get success URL. It can be callable, right? Well, why am I so ignorant? And maybe there's already a thing for this. There's got to be already a thing for this. Yeah, dude. How to get that? Wait a minute. Of course. Just don't need that at all. Django's going to hook into that. Get success URL. Return that, right? Cool, but self, of course. And in fact, let's run this in debugger mode. Right here. Did we do it? Correct. Good. Self request. And our whiskey stuff. Then we got a query dict. If self request get. Yeah, what's the proper way of doing this? Because there's a lot of it. So it's going to have self request get is not none, but that's it. Well, it's a dictionary. So you just object dictionary get, or yeah, so. Yeah, it'll default to none, that's of course. So let's see. Kick it. This just needs a URL. Yeah, I mean, in both cases, let's just say print redirect URL. But I need that to go. Yeah, so essentially, it's just a string. It'll return this string, right? So in the case of just realized, so in the case of the invitation flow, there's not really a button, it's the view, the invitation view. Let's not get so deep in my mind and thought, let's look at it. I'm seeing if this is even worthwhile. Because I jumped straight into this redirect thing, not the auto login thing. I believe we did the invitations here. Join, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's this decorator. Okay. All right. Well, I can manually construct the login URL. It's just a string. So yeah, if I just do this and get the kind of decorator access the request. Oh man. No, I don't need that. I'm just gonna. Oh yeah, I do. Redirect field name. So this might give me the opportunity to use a property that's gonna grab something from the request. Hello, Ade. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I'm fairly new in Django myself, even though I've been sort of doing Django Wagtail for a few years now. I'm learning quite a lot each step of the way. What kind of projects are you interested in building? So the login URL can be none. Actual decorator. User passes test. How do they use the redirect field? Let's find out. Yeah, that makes sense. The thing is, I want to pass in a parameter. I want to make the login URL accept redirect. Is there a pattern for this? I think I just Googled this to. and I need to construct this with data that's coming into the view, specifically this invitation ID. I need to know that so I can construct a redirect URL. So let's see. So yeah, I can set that statically, but this is a more dynamic issue where I want, in some cases, in this one case, where when a person has been invited to join the service, like join a group within our service, we have little kind of caregiving groups that get a particular invitation code, and sometimes they haven't even registered yet. So this will make them register first. The problem is they'll register and then they'll be stuck there. They're like, well, where do I go now? I just registered, and it won't even log them in. So then they have to log in. Then they have to be like, well, what happened? They just got kind of dropped off in the middle of nowhere. I need to get them back to the invitation page, and I'd like to do that automatically on their behalf, because I believe it's confusing to somebody who's not familiar with the system. So I need this login URL to send them to the login page, but somehow the login page needs to know that after they successfully log in, after they successfully register. Yeah, so it's not the login URL, it's the registration URL. Both of them actually, they need to be redirected back to the group. In both cases. So this needs to know, and the group is part of the request. The group, it's like the person ID here. The join requests. So essentially it needs to redirect them to this join request. And if we look at our URLs here, so it's going to redirect them to this one. And I need to have this person ID there in the join request. It can be in the URL. Hey JR, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Let me see, that sun just came right through the window. I'll be right back. Oh yeah, let me try out my new video real quick. Oh, how I deployed the app? Yeah, we actually have a demonstration version of it if you want to try it out. Let's see here. We're beta testing it. We're looking for active beta testers. We've been talking about it, and we'd like to. So the premise here, I'm not sure, JR, if you've seen this project before. The code's here, and I don't have the chat here on OBS, so I can't paste this in, unfortunately. So if you go to GitHub, Jerry Life, Companionship Care, and essentially what we want to do is there are people who are living independently, they're living at home and whatnot, and they need some kind of a little bit of companionship in life for various reasons. Everybody needs companionship, and it's part of being human. But in particular, as people age, for example, they can't do certain things. They might need help running errands or with housework and stuff like that. So we're building an app, and we intend to have a free tier for just people that have like a family member and they want to have companionship. And you create a circle of people around that person, who in need. And it's not bad to need companionship. We're not in any way kind of condemning people for that. We're in fact trying to help them. And you invite the people into that circle. And so our beta is here. It's the same software. You can run it locally if you want. We're open source. And to run it is actually not too difficult. It's just, install poetry and then pretty standard Django stuff. We've deployed it here. So if you want to go to beta.companionship.care, you can check it out. You can log in and add a person and start inviting people. And this beta, we're going to try to keep running now. It's in a state of maturity where we're actively inviting people to use it and to try it out and give us feedback. So that any feedback is welcome also, JR. And in particular, if you're familiar with GitHub, I'm on here regularly, so you could open an issue and I'll respond to that if you have suggestions or ideas for features. But basically, my local one, I'll just show you real quick. You create a user, a person. You log in and you create a person, who you want to have a companionship circle. And you invite companions by clicking this link, and it'll copy that and paste. And this is what I'm trying to improve right now, is this flow of getting people into your caring circle. Because it does kind of drop you off in the middle of the road and leave you kind of figuring out a couple directions. But essentially then, once you got some people, you'll schedule activities. Like, for example, my dad is in the United States and I'm in Finland, so I can't really do a lot of things, but I can call him. And that's enough, just companionship, checking in on somebody to see how they're doing today, and maybe even asking questions like, hey, have you had lunch, or have you been drinking enough water? But also people who are closer can help them run errands or go to doctor's appointments or go out with them to a movie or a theater, or generally just hang out at the park or whatever, go shopping for basic needs and clean up around the house, stuff like that. So we have a general list here. We can expand this list. But these are predefined so that we can translate them into different languages. And you schedule the activity. And you can add an optional note. We want to keep these really simple, not a lot of private information in here. You submit it, and you'll get this kind of calendar. And later on, I'm going to add a feature that lets you actually kind of subscribe to this on your phone calendar or something, or get reminders in your email. And you can then commit to the activities and kind of divide them up. That's it. We're using Django as a backend, and this project came about through thinking for a few years and knowing a few people who've been in a situation where they've needed companionship, and seeing and observing people who have been caring companions for people in need for various reasons, and not just aging, but for other reasons as well. And the code itself, the project, is only a few months old. So it came out of, the COVID downtime sort of gave me some time to say, hey, let's do it. But I actually started writing it, December 19, after talking to it. And, some friends, in particular a friend in Australia, has the situation where, they want to kind of divide up care for one of their loved ones, and maybe they're feeling like they're a little bit more burdened and some of their family can also help. But again, we're trying to approach this in a tactful manner and promoting, positive spirit. So an example is like when you agree to do an activity, you get a point here, and each person has their own score. You can see who's doing these activities. So it's like a little bit of competition, but all the points go to this person. So in reality, you're all on the same team, and it's kind of a reminder of that. And also it's kind of reminding this person that, they're not in any way deficient or anything. We just have some people who care for them and that want to come around and do stuff with them. So that's about it, and you can edit it. And so on the front end, I'm just really keeping things very simple. So it's just HTML, and I'm using Bootstrap to give me some clean aesthetic and nice semantics for the styling. I might at some point, if it matures, add some JSON responses so that we can put another mobile client in front of it. But right now I don't think we need that level of complexity of having separate front end and back end. It would be too much and it would slow down the project. Right now we're just trying to get to minimum viable and let people test it. So again, you can test it out at beta.companionship.care, and we'll leave this running, and if I need to do any destructive actions on the database, I'll try to notify the users who register. There's not even any strict requirements to register. We don't validate emails or anything. But I understand that some people might start putting this into use in their own family, so we don't want to pull the rug out from under you if you're actively using it. It is in beta though, things are changing. But at this point, the beta is stable enough that I don't think there's going to be major changes to the current data structures, just kind of improvement to the user experience, which I'm kind of trying to dig through here. So there's two main things. When I invite somebody to this circle, let's see, I'm going to drop off of this one real quick because I'm testing this locally. I'm going to say, open another incognito tab here, and incognito window, I guess, and then CAL 8000. Oh wait, here it is. So yeah, when you get the invitation, you have to be logged in order to accept the invitation, or you have to register. So this is the problem. Now the login has a next argument that if I do log in, it'll take me there. But in the case I don't log in, I'm gonna have to click register, and that's the deal. Okay, I need to look at this as a separate issue. This will actually work if people are already registered though. So is the Django database called Django, or does it have to be a different name? Yeah, well, I'll show you the database real quick in our code. When you run it locally, you can clone the code from Git and open it in your text editor or file browser. I highly recommend Visual Studio Code. It's very mature. It has great Python and Django support. Fully open, mostly open source. I think there's some edge cases, but anyway, it's free to download. When you want to run the project, so I'll show you what it looks like at a command line. So here I am in the project directory. You know, I'm seeing the same structure here as I am over here. So most of this stuff at the base level is just kind of metadata. It's like readme, how do you use the project? What's the point of it? What are the dependencies? We don't have a lot of dependencies right now, just mainly Django and a couple things. When we deploy it online, we're using PostgreSQL. So we're using a SQL database, both online and locally. However, locally, it's using SQLite. And that's because it makes it real easy to develop locally. You don't have to have a database server running. And since our data model is so simple right now, I want to keep the development process really simple. That's why I'm using Django, not using a front-end framework, and just using SQLite. So yeah, this is the database right here, SQLite. And if you have a tool, you can like open it and interact with it. Let's see, do I have a SQLite tool? Nope, not that at least. Let's see. I think I have like I have this database browser. Are you interested in the data schema and data structures? This is basically home code. Jerry Live. Where did I clone this to? Code companionship. Oh, I cloned it one. Level up. I go to the project and here's this SQLite. For the most part, you don't have to really worry about the structure of the database or the tables and things like that. everything is done through Python. Yeah, essentially, so this is just SQL. And in fact, if you're wanting to, increase your programming skills, SQL is one of the most important languages to learn for, back-end developers and data analysts and all sorts of things. It's really widely used in SQL and Python are, according to the IEEE recent survey they published, two of the most popular languages right now. Where is, let me get this IEEE thing. Programming language ranking. They published it recently. Top programming languages 2022 IEEE Spectrum. You can check it out both years. Well, cookie pop-ups. Jeez. Double whammy. Yeah, so you can see here, according to the IEEE's survey, Python is the top language. Jobs-wise, it's up there. Notice SQL, though. Super important to learn SQL. Python is kind of up. JavaScript, it seems like it's got huge popularity, and it does, that's for sure, and there's quite a lot going on, especially in startups with JavaScript. But I highly recommend starting with Python and kind of staying a little bit out of the front end territory if you can. The front end can be very complex, and though a lot of people are doing work to make it stable and not constantly breaking, it's still just a big challenge, especially if you have separate code bases for front end and back end. And I have not seen, and I've looked, a mature JavaScript backend on the level of maturity of a Django or Ruby on Rails or Laravel, like where it's a batteries included framework. It has lots of primitives. There are definitely JavaScript backend frameworks. So anyway, I just think if possible in your career, if you're looking at language choices right now, I'm not sure, JR, but let's work with Python and SQL. And the schemas. So this is an interesting question. Let's look at the schemas. Well, how do we do this? How do we view the schema in this table? Let's go browse table. The schema. So one thing about Django is you don't really have to get down to the schema level. But we can find so for example, if we look at this, one of these people companion table, browse it table. So I've only got one. Essentially, Java dev. Okay, great. Yeah, and so you saw that Java, and you know that Java is a very popular language. Now, the thing with Java, as you're also probably familiar with, it's got a lot of boilerplate, and you have to think about like types and stuff like that. Now, there's an increasing movement in both JavaScript and Python to be more strictly typed. That introduces its own challenges, but I can see some of the benefits definitely. So the literal schemas, right here, the tables are fairly small. Caregivers. We have companions who are people who want to help out somebody, and some of them are organizing the group, the broader group, and some of them are just participants of that group. We got a lot of foreign keys, so that's why I didn't opt for sort of a document order storage like Mongo. Also, just Django doesn't really support that, so it's a relational data. It's built around relational data, and I think most apps honestly are relational. Hey, Rager, welcome to the chat. The schema is right next to the table name in the first tab. Yeah, okay, so let's see. This create table statement basically is what you mean. Yeah, and then it gives us a nice way to open it up, I suppose, huh? That's cool. Yeah, I'm learning this tool, DB browser for SQLite. Pretty nice. I think it's open source. Let's see. Yeah, NPL. It's made with Qt. What's the Yeah, SQLite browser if you're interested. Honestly, I don't have to get into this level of the database very often, but I do appreciate the question and the opportunity to learn more about the tools. JR, so that's a good point. And thanks, Ray JR, I think if I'm pronouncing your name right, thanks for pointing out the where to find the schemas here. And the cool thing is, let's see which one is this. That's the anonymous one. We're gonna maybe come back to this workout. Login flow in a minute. Okay, here we are. I'm actually gonna go to VS Code. The cool thing is all of our models in Django, it's just Python, and that's about as much as I have to think about. Just kind of defining Python models. So it kind of keeps me here in Python land, and it does the SQL stuff for me. Yeah, and I do have, if you're interested in some kind of SQL and data analysis, we have another project that's also open source called Caregivers, and we're doing, it's built with Python and Django, and we're also using Plotly to do some analytic visualizations, basically. So, and in some cases, I've had to actually kind of get out of the Django ORM and write my own SQL there. So, our projects are open source here on GitHub. This caregiving one is a little bit older. This well-being is our first prototype, and that's been around for several years. And I'm in the process of porting it over to Python. I built it with a JavaScript framework that kind of isn't so active anymore, and I would like to move it into a more mature thing of Django. But essentially, let's see, I've got this caregiving, and we've got some work report, I think, right? Report, yes. Let's see if we look at the views here. For example, in the views here, I've had to write some SQL, and I'm looking out for a better way of storing the SQL and parameterizing it so that I'll get better, maybe IDE support, like linting and things like that, SQL. But anyway, I'm writing it directly in Python. Got a couple of them here. And this is for our report for the entire system. And then we also have it's basically the same report at a lower level, which is at this home level. So it would be views. It's like, oops, where we go? Might be in a branch there. In any case, you can check this out. Where did I write this? No, I moved it over here. So I'm in the process. It's the same code almost exactly, with just like one line different, where it's using where home ID, and we're passing that in to filter it. So I'm in the future going to clean this up so they're kind of sharing the same code, and maybe using SQL Alchemy to make the SQL more composable. That's one of the downfalls of SQL. You can't really kind of compose queries together and put a where statement in the middle when it's needed and omit it when it's not. But the SQL Alchemy does have some primitives for working with it. I haven't got to that level. Are there official documents like Word? Yeah, that's a good question. We're staying away from blobs, and also the on this caregiving project. I'm sorry, the companionship care project. We're trying to avoid personally identifiable information to the extent possible. So, for example, when you create an appointment, you might be creating a doctor's appointment, or an errand that they need to go fill some prescription, and you might be tempted to like store that prescription slip in our platform, and it's been suggested that we allow that people upload docs like that, but we're really trying to keep it simple, so we're not going to have any binary blobs. In the case of Django, though, if you do have blobs, you typically don't store those in the database. You would keep them on the file system level, and there's ways of handling both static files and user uploads. I don't have well, actually, I do have an example in this project. Let's grab what's a stock image? Pexels. So I'll just show you real quick. Let's just say that this one's looking good. So if I download this and just like medium size is cool. And we'll just put this on like my downloads folder for now. Yeah, so now you come over here. This is basically similar to docx or PPT. It's just a binary file, but it happens to be an image. WakeSD, I'm not running it locally. Let me get back here. So yeah, if you want to run the project locally, you just need, I can show you the steps real quick. You essentially do poetry, install. So you would say, you need poetry installed. And then you create a poetry shell. Python poetry is just a package manager. And you say poetry install, which will take all our dependencies and pull them down. We don't have a lot, but some of the dependencies have dependencies. You can see this pillow here is going to be how we handle images here, which are binary files, which have a similar means of handling. And we essentially put those in this media folder. And you got care group photos, I believe, or people photos. And you can see a couple of them here I've been uploading in the past, apparently, and haven't cleaned up. Then once you've got the thing installed and you're inside your virtual environment, you can see here, like the virtual environment is activated. Then you can cd into the project folder and Python manage py run server. Now that server's running, let's go ahead and refresh this page. And if so I'm editing the person, so if you recall, I clicked this little pencil here. I can now choose a file for my downloads, pixels, file. When I update that, you can see now the person has an image. So that's cool. And where that landed was here, pixels right here on the file system. And so in the local development environment, it's just a folder in the file system. And when you go to deploy, it's a little bit more advanced. Django is not so good at, it's not designed for serving static files. It'll actually slow things down. So on another project that we've got, a magazine website I'm developing for Western Friend, we have a lot of media. And for that, we use DigitalOcean Spaces, but you can use an S3 bucket's the same. And essentially, it's just like a repository with an interface for API like S3 that lets you just store static or binary content typically, or it could be anything really, but that's just down the road when you get into that level, which in the Western Friend project, we are pretty close to that level. And so if I look at this project's a lot older. It's made with Django and Wagtail. But if we look at this, for example, core settings for static files. I've had to go through a lot more configuration. We're using this AWS interface for DigitalOcean Spaces. It's just emulating that. And you need all these configuration variables. But once you've got those set up, you've created a storage bucket, it'll host your static files such as like CSS or the website logo, things that don't change that are part of the development project. And then media are the things that like uploaded by the user. Yeah, so that's it. We configured those, and then down at the end here is like a little bit of Django specific static file configuration. So again, this is on the Western Friend website. Let's see, do these packaging managers allow the app to be network specific, and does it affect the DOM? Well, yeah, let's see. So the network specific one, I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna close a few of these tabs here. Okay. I can get my less depth of field, in other words, narrow down my focus. Boom. I think I'm gonna have to put this task on hiatus on the back burner. It's more complicated than I was hoping, but at least I can auto log people in now. We did have that. That's not it. Preview. Yeah, we'll come back. I'll look it up again. So yeah, the networking question, basically network aware. Well, yeah, when you run Django, the packaging, I'm not sure exactly. When I run this run server, it's going to start a server on my local computer. So it is networking aware in that it's listening for requests. And anybody that makes a request to my computer at port 8000 will receive a response. Now that's different packages. Oh, I see what you're saying. Packaging managers like poetry, package manager and networking. I mean, poetry will install packages from the network, and the DOM is basically generated. It's HTML, so it's rendered in a templating language that lets you kind of have inheritance and some other nice helpers like localization or internationalization and variables that can go into these templates. But in the long run, it's just rendering DOM as HTML, and then the browser gets that HTML and can then use it in a JavaScript DOM environment. We, in this project, aren't using any DOM. We're not accessing the DOM on the client very much. Yeah, and basically, yeah, so NPM is the node package manager. It's for JavaScript ecosystem, and then Python has a similar project called pip, which pulls from the Python packaging index, PyP. They're kind of like the same idea though. Python package index is the same as like NPM more or less. There may be, you know, differences in like it's run by a foundation instead of a company, and I don't know. I haven't really dug into much of the other details about it. But yeah, here at pyp.org is where I'm getting pretty much all of the packages from. You can also host your own package, just like you can host your own NPM package repository. You can do that as well, but all of our code is open source, so we haven't really needed to have a private package repository. But yeah, those would be network as well, aware, and you can even put in packages from Git repository. All right, so let's take a look. Let me step back and I'm not gonna look at this automatically redirect on registration flow to the invitation URL because I think that's too complicated and might not even work how I was expecting it. I think I'll have to rewrite the invitation view for that. But I can automatically log the user in. Let's just get that done. That looks like a few lines of code. Automatically log in on register. There's a few of these examples going back to 2010, 2012, and more or less they're the same. This person's doing invalid. And wow, this is fresh and concise. I can do it in the valid hook. And since I've got a user there, you just log in with the request and user. So those are the bits of information I need. How did they? From Django contrib auth. Using only login in 4.03. So this is fresh. Why did it get downvoted? I don't know if it works. Let's try it out. So back to the task. I'm gonna just undo this code because I realized I was not going down the right path here and not even working on the task I decided to do. So when you sign up, it's going to create a new user. Don't save. It's going to render this template and create a user. Now on form valid, the create view should have form valid, and hopefully we'll have access to the request. Base create view, get post, model form mixin, get form quargs, form valid. If the form is valid, save the associated model. So what we'll do is just call super form valid as well as logging in the user to see if this just works. So in our view, we're going to call that and do the exact same thing. Which I think we don't even need that. And then we're going to try this. see. So we do need that. Users forms save. Nice. Login comes from Django contrib auth. Boom. Yes. Now, basically, if I sign up in the incognito tab, for example, let's try it. Oof. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So the request is not defined because it's attached to self. Okay, that should work. And this is another person. Boom, logged in. No, it worked, but they're not logged in. Shoot. I still believe this should work. Let me see how they're handling it. So like the form valid in the create view. They're authenticating in the meantime. Now does this login method need an authenticated user? Let's check it out. Boom. The low-level way to authenticate a set of credentials. But I don't want to log. I don't want to log in view probably because I want to register. And the Django docs are still recommending this authenticate, which will get back a user. So let's do this then. Looks like we're going to take the way or the authenticate, and the user will be authenticate. And this is still done in form valid. So basically, I can sort of see why they didn't get their updates, or can I just unupdate it? I don't know. Oh, it's locked unless it's edited. Okay. Form valid. I need that. still need to log in. So it is a two-step process: authenticate, then log in. Interesting. I guess the authentication creates a session. So go this one. Sign it. Someone at somewhere dot biz. Yeah, let's see. So we're in a create view, which more or less my user form is a model form. All right, and close this incognito thing down for the time being. So really, why does this need to be custom? Oh, I needed to do a custom so I could put placeholder texts there. But basically it's a user form, and so yeah, we needed a custom for whatever reason. I don't remember what problems I was solving there, but it's not too different. So you have form valid, self form. Okay, this is probably part of my issue. There. Essentially, that's what this form valid does. I think redirects them to form valid. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, it's already gonna do that. So. Interesting. That's attaching it right to the form. Instead of the view. I mean, this is working when I return that. But the authentication's not. Let me check my fields, and this is why it might be better to do it on the form itself. But am I using email or username? display name. No, that's not important. Email. If I look at the user model, yeah, the username field is email, so that's all correct. So I'm checking the. Well, you know, it could be just if I switch it to username. I mean, it is email, and it allows you to log in with email. Crud. Yeah, wait. I don't know if this should be done at the view or the form. We have examples of both. I don't understand that error that I got. Let's put a breakpoint here, debug with the IDE. There we go. And then if we go back to sign up, let's see what's going on here. So we already have an, yeah, that worked. Test email. And password none. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's all right. It's the password. Form. Clean the data. Get. Cleans data. Get. Password 1. Password 2. Oh, okay, it's a typo. That's cool. K, U. So control K, control U. Oh, what did I do that? Let's take a look. I don't want to delete that code. I want to just uncomment it. Control A, Q. Save that and reload everything. 2 hours. Cancel that. Let's just refresh it. Please work. I think the view is the more natural place to authenticate the user, but, what does that mean? We are doing this in a form hook, so it's not in like a view related class. So maybe it makes sense to do it in the form. That's the clean data. Well, what does this mean? I mean, what am I doing wrong there? No, it's not what I meant. I mean, it's just basically that it's not getting a user to authenticate. Well, this is also. So we can't authenticate. I think it's this when this user is not happening. So we can't log it in and then get this thing where you're getting like an anonymous user passed here, essentially, instead of an authenticated one. That's my guess. All right, let's try this one more time. Loop, loop. No. Yeah. I'm going to move to the form, and I'm just going to do this. 2-liner. I thought I'd already tried it like this. Yes, we have a user now. And when I step over that, when I continue, you're not logged in. Let's get my view thin and my form a little bit fatter. Turn that off. if that's ordered. Then return. Why can't I get this? To work. Interesting. This should really work on the view level. Using these two methods. So, good grief. Darn it, man. Even if I use the email's username. This might be where I want to check this database out. So if we look at the users. And a lot of those are actually failing. Interesting. Interesting. This has some code. So this person did it at the form level, it looks like. Yeah, I don't know what they did. All right. I'll make sure I've got the auth user model set, but I mean, I think I did that a while ago. Yeah. This is the exact same. Doesn't matter, just for so I can read it. So we're grabbing the email and the password. Running the debugger here. I'll pause everything. Could be the call to super. Yeah, okay. That's the issue. I'm missing. I have to save it first, I guess. That's probably exactly what I'm missing. I used to have that in here. Or captured user, then try to pass it to the login. Okay, so yeah, it was successfully because I saved the form. And we should be able to get an instance of a user here. There we go, user here. Put it there. And then I might even just be able to log in. Let's just try with the authenticating step. Although then I might be able to capture the user. I think I've tried that before. I swear I tried that before. And then we'll continue. Boink. And sign up. Getting closer. Getting closer. So now we got an account, sign up, log in, and then if I step over, it's just not logging in. Just not logging in. It creates the user. Can you pass self? Let me just check this call to super. I think they're in the example. This might be the problem. Get success URL. I didn't want to do that. I kind of wanted to delegate it, but in the super, when I call super, and they're not actually calling it, then they're passing in response, and then you have a response, redirect here. No, don't download it. HTTP. I'd like to use this redirect method, but let's just go for this. Hey Rager, how you doing again? All right, thanks for. I don't know why I'm so tangled up in this one, man. I was mentioning earlier that generally Django hasn't gotten in my way much, but maybe this is a case where just my total, like, I'm at some depths of it that I don't quite understand. This looks good, so let's see when I hit play. Dang it. Get from bytes. Yeah, so that's I could just return, I need to call the function, I think. It's expecting like a string, and it needs the result of that function, not the pointer. Yeah, so that's cool. Just self success URL should be fine, because that is essentially a string. When this gets instantiated, that's going to be invoked. So boom, and I'll try it with the regular that redirect one as well, just a little cleaner than HTTP response redirect. Duke Nukem. Boing. Yeah, and then when I hit play, yes. Now there's only a few lines of code, not major blockage from the framework. I'm going to try to optimize it a little bit. I'm pressing my luck. So I'll say I'll commit this initial working auto login. So I will not lose this progress. I'm going to press my luck a little bit, because I've got a couple of unused imports firstly. Don't die. No, everything's good. Everything's good. Everything is awesome. Something like that. Boom. Now, just a couple new nuances. I want to try if I can just get the user here to pass this format. This didn't work earlier. You get the user here and pass it to the login request, bypassing this. And then the other thing I was going to try, yeah, the redirect method. Finding that helper to redirect helper, it's just a little cleaner. Looking good. Going too far. Yeah, and I got my debug breakpoint there. No, actually it worked. So yeah, I don't know what I was doing wrong earlier. I think it's because I was calling super and probably not passing in self, you know? When you call super, you have to pass in self, right? This is just Python thing, and that's the case. This is totally not Django getting my way. It's really my, you know, learning process, you could call it. No shame in the game. So basically, I might be able to call super because it automatically has this redirect thing all wired up. Oh boy. Oh yeah, because super form valid takes self in form. It won't work. Don't forget to set the password to the user password from clean data. Okay, so that's not going to be handled for me automatically, I guess, huh? Interesting. Let's see that user I just created. How do I like refresh this? This automatically get another going too far. It looks like these have all been hashed. There we go. Going too far. I think it did get set. That's another good thing. We got this database browser. We can check it out. That's a good point, though, because we don't want to store it. That's really actually an essential point, Rager. How do I say your name? Rager? Rayer? Is the J or yeah? But in any case, that's crucial observation because we don't want to store unhashed passwords. And if I could just introduce a really big security issue by getting in the pipework and meddling a little bit. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out so I could check that. So when I call super, I'm going to try this again. Super, because we know that actually this part is unnecessary because the form handles it. The form is like a user creation form, which inherits from Django's user creation form, which has those sort of hashing stuff built in. So that's why I'm really just trying to stick as close to Django as possible because of its maturity, and it's got built in all these mistakes that people have made and security vulnerabilities that are so common to applications, like cross-site request forgery or storing plain text passwords and stuff. So yeah, definitely use the framework there. It's Dutch. Okay, cool. Right here. All right, so instead I'm going to return now super and super dot get form valid, which takes self and then the form. Boom. And this should be clean. Yeah, it's pretty rad. Dug into the framework a bit. Let me get back to that. Let's take a look at that really quick. This custom user creation form. It's a lot of things are handled inside of there. F12, just jumping in here. So yeah, it grabs it from there and cleans it and validates it against the other one, I guess. Set password. This is probably the I'm not sure where the hashing comes into play. This is in the Django contrib auth forms.py if you're wanting to dig in, and it might be even something that's coming in from user. Set password here. Oops. Set password. Yeah, not implemented error. Interesting. I don't know. I really don't know where the hashing comes into play there. I do like getting a little bit deeper into Django and learning more about it. So I'm just going to remove that breakpoint. I'm going to try this one more time. If I think I've got the super call correct now. With super, does super take an argument? No, it looks like no argument. Oh, you don't even pass the instance in there. It's interesting. It is inside set password. Okay, I was thinking, I just didn't see it. It said not implemented on in whatever library or layer I was looking at. Very cool. So we'll log out. Let's try this one more time. Sign up. If they register as a super user, they have special privileges. No, I'm just kidding. They can't SU. Alright. Well, so it's passing self implicitly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Didn't log in. You know, that's okay. If I can't do it with the super, I'm not super disappointed. I've already got good progress. But on the other hand, what if we can use this little helper? Because it's just a little bit verbose. It's there, but there's this other example using redirect. And I think that, where's that going to come from? Do we already have it in here? Yeah, so it's already there, Django shortcuts. So we didn't need to use this authenticate, and we don't need this response redirect. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I haven't actually tried this out. Sign up. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay. It worked. Okay, so yeah, it's a little cleaner. Fewer lines of code, less is more. And less, not playing code golf, but like the semantics are clearer. I'm redirecting here, and so it's not so relevant at my level of thought here that I'm working with HTTP request or response or redirect. I mean, it is underlying this view, but not much of the other language here revolves around HTTP, so it's a bit abstracted. This gives me a nice abstraction. So cool, I'm satisfied with that. Did the job. Three lines of code, 1 hour and a half tinkering, scratching my head. That's the way it goes. That's a hard fought 3 lines. But again, I don't think that was Django getting my way. I think that was me getting in my own way. Yeah, it works. All right. Cleaner. Whoa, good stuff. Yeah, very cool. So I don't think I've got the mental capacity right now to like tackle any other issues. So it would have been nice if I could move on, but in another session. And I really actually had to set out, well, the issue I had chosen and assigned myself to here was just this auto login, and then I kind of went off in this smooth registration flow tangent. Automatically logging into the user when registering, that was it. It's like a 3-liner. But I got stuck on this redirect to, or it's actually the Django login page lets you pass a next equals, and it'll redirect you after you log in. And I thought I could make that happen with the registration page, but it turned out to be much more complicated. So the original task, I was completely diverted that I just wanted to do this, and that this was extra. And secondary as well. Oops. So we can close this issue. Closes. Automatically logging out to registration. Was it? Cool. Close pull request. Yeah, Ray, if you're on GitHub and you want to review this pull request, it's Rayer. Pull request 51. If you're interested, you could give me a review on that. But I think you've basically helped to review it in the live chat. Appreciate that. Everything's linted, right? Save on lint. Lint on save, I mean. So which did I end up using? I want to upload the correct one. I used parts of this, basically. Not entirely. I didn't use this. That's a good point. They were thinking the same thing. That we needed to set that password manually for some reason, but it handled it automatically for us. That was cool. This is, yeah, basically what I used. Grabbing the user instance, but the problem I had when I started out, I could have been done in like 5 minutes, is that instead of redirecting to the success URL, I called super and not knowing what I was doing. This was a good one too, though. Anyway, giving updates where updates are deserved. These are all pretty good. I'm not writing writing class base. All right, cool. PR looks good. Signed off. All right, I'll rebase and merge. Yeah, the only other thing, I don't know if you were here, was I added just local internationalization to these to the sign up form and the login form. And we might translate this to Dutch if you're interested in helping us localize this. Our first target language is Finnish. I'll set up a translation tool called Editor, and it's like a crowdsourcing tool where people Editor, crowdsourcing tool where people can translate stuff. Yeah, Editor. I've got another project in here. Well, I can just see if I'm logged in. No, I'm not logged in. But yeah, it's a good translation interface. You can crowdsource translations, and it's free for open source projects, which we are open source. I just haven't added it to this project, so I'll go ahead and merge this real quick and add a task to remind myself that if it's not already done, it's not already in our backlog. I'm working in 3 different projects, and we're trying to consolidate these into one. But the more projects you have, and the more repositories you have to put in all these types of accoutrements, like the localization, internationalization, continuous integration. These are just not very mature projects. Let's check that I've got this though. I don't even think we have finished translations for this. That was the wrong project. I was in the wrong project when I created this. This one's the one. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, no obligation, of course. But yeah, we do give credits to people who contribute, and it shows up on your GitHub account, I think so. Or when I export it, I would say co-authored by, and I would have your link to your. Are you on GitHub, by the way? Oh, so now we're in a caregiving app. I'm gonna hop back over here in companionship care and open an issue to set up localization, project localization. And we need to Editor. Very cool. So yeah, project number 52, issue number 52. And that's when we have localization rounds for the software. Very cool. All right, well, hey, thanks for hanging out. It's nice to have company and figuring stuff out. And I think also we had a good, interesting chat about some other related topics. So yeah, I'll wrap up this session. This has been another Python and Django live code hangout where we've been working on the companionship care project. We merged a pull request number 51 after maybe 2 hours to write basically 3 lines of code. It's all right, it happens. Because I had an error in the return and I just didn't understand the error message. It was so abstract to me. But that's the way learning goes. And then add a couple of localizations, internationalization strings so we can start up a translation round. If you'd like to get involved with this or similar projects, you can stop by github.com/jerrylife. We've got a few open source projects. Or if you're interested in just web development, open source in general, hope to see you around this channel in the future. Thanks again, Ryer. I hope I'm eventually going to pronounce your name correctly. If you kind of give me the phonetic spelling, I'll just practice saying it. It's nice to hear your name like the way it's your parents would say it, kind of a thing. You know, the way it's naturally spoken in your language. Also, JR, thanks for stopping by. Had a good time chatting about database schemas and other related topics like Python package managers. And Ade, thanks for stopping by briefly. All right. Well, I hope y'all have a nice evening. Stay well.